What's cooking, everybody? Dave Altizer here with Kinotika, and today we're unveiling the world's fastest HASSELBLAD lens. We were fortunate enough to have this new 80mm lens from HASSELBLAD for an early review and the amazing X1D camera to test it on, and man, was it a luxury. We will be doing an official X1D review later on this channel, but we wanted to review the XCD 80mm 1.9 first because it's so revolutionary. HASSELBLAD has been making cameras for 70 years and they're world famous for being the first camera on the moon. They've always designed medium format cameras for high-end professionals, which, by the way, we're going to be showing this to Rory, who is a professional portrait photographer who makes a living shooting on HASSELBLAD cameras. I'm really excited to see his thoughts on this new lens, so make sure that you stick around for that. This is HASSELBLAD's fastest lens ever at f1.9. The previous fastest lens from HASSELBLAD was f2, and it was made in 1988. In fact, if you want to get super technical here, this is the fastest production medium format lens to date. This camera is, if you didn't know already, a medium format camera. The sensor size in this camera is actually larger than full frame, so that means you need a higher number lens to equal 50mm. 80mm roughly is a 50mm equivalent on a standard full frame body. That also applies to your aperture speed. At f1.9 on this lens, you're sort of getting like a f1.4 on full frame. So that does it for our brief history lesson. Let's get into the details of this amazing Bokeh-licious lens. First and foremost, this thing is chunky. It weighs in at about 2.27 pounds, making it a full pound heavier than Canon's equivalent 50mm f1.2. But to be fair, this lens balances really well on the X1D, and it's medium format, so we expect it to be a little bit bigger and heavier than its full frame equivalent. This lens comes with 14 elements and 9 groups with very precise surface and coating treatment to ensure high quality bokeh, which is basically a bunch of marketing jargon saying that this lens is like butter. Because there is so much glass inside of this lens, one focusing motor wasn't enough. They added an additional motor to this lens, giving it a twin motor design for autofocus and precise manual focusing. This lens comes with a 77mm filter thread on the front, which is great, and no surprise, it's a focus by wire lens just like all the other XCD lenses. It is fairly easy to focus manually, but I really wish that they would put manual focus gears on this because it just makes manual focus so much better. All those specs are great, but it means nothing if the image quality isn't good on this lens. So Connor and I went downtown Nashville to test this thing out and see how it handled. So we are at Studio 615 in the East Nashville area with photographer Rory, who is an amazing, incredible friend, an amazing photographer. Thanks for doing this, Rory.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. What are you currently shooting on today?
It's a 1985 HASSELBLAD 503 CXI body, very nice. It's like a Cadillac. And then I've got a P65, a 65 million pixel back that is also what I would consider the Cadillac of digital backs.
Yeah. This is the 80mm 1.9 aperture medium format lens.
Wow.
So this lens here is quite a difference.
He's a beefcake.
From the previous lens that you looked at, the 45.
Yeah.
And you can clearly feel the difference when you hold them side by side.
There's a lot of glass.
Yes.
In this lens. My old school Hasselblad 80mm lens has a 2.8 aperture. And this is a far cry at 1.8?
1.9.
1.9.
Yeah.
And in medium format, that's going to be a very thin,
extremely thin
depth of field.
But man, when you nail it,
it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah. And I've done it. I've done it with the autofocus.
And with my old school camera, I would never feel comfortable doing that. But this offers so much new potential.
You want to put it on?
Yeah.
Now, it does feel heavy, but it balances well.
Yeah, it does.
This lens is about 2.5 pounds.
It doesn't matter. It feels really good. Again, they nailed this handle. It feels really good. Let's see, all right.
So
yeah, okay.
Aperture is here.
And this really turns me on.
So right now you're in this autofocus mode, which is just going to be a half shutter press, and it does that. Click back in that original mode that I had it in.
Let's listen to that again. Here, let me get my microphone all up on there. There's a lot of motor action going on in there. Okay,
I turned that on for you.
Yeah, it's just this big celebration of orange telling me that I'm winning.
He's talking about the focus peaking feature. And you can change the color of that to yellow, green, magenta, blue, different colors.
Super great. Well, orange is good because I would never shoot orange really unless orange was the subject, and then I'd have to
change it to green. How do you feel about this lens? 1.9 80mm.
Oh, absolutely.
That's kind of it, right? This one lens in this body sells it for me.
So I call it F0. When you have something that is this wide open, and why would you use something that's this wide open? Probably because what's happening to you is what happens to all photographers. You're thrown into a situation where you have to shoot something in an undesirable location. And the things behind the subject or in front of the subject are going to take away from the subject as opposed to pointing back into the subject. So you want to throw that stuff away. Yeah. So one of the tricks is to use a long lens, but there's certain compression issues with the long lens that you might not want to deal with, or you might be too close to your subject or whatever. So this is a normal lens, and it's going to help you throw stuff away that is getting in the way, or you're just going for pretty bokeh.
Yeah.
Neat little lights in the background, or you're out in the big city at night and you want everything to twinkle and be big, beautiful full moons in the background. That could be really cool. So it would be worth having this on top of, like, I have an 80mm 2.8, but it's never going to give me this really dreamy bokeh and help me get rid of a competitive background like this would. And so
it's kind of a dream setup right there.
Yeah. So mark this. That's as close as I can get to you. Let me frame you proper.
Well, Rory, Wyatt, thank you so much for your initial thoughts on the 80mm f1.9. We will definitely try to get your hands on one for maybe a more professional shooting environment.
That would be a lot of fun.
And
to put this up against his forefather in a shootout would be a lot of fun.
So Rory, how can people find you online? What's the best way to find your work, to connect with you on social media?
Yeah, locate me in the depths of the web at www.rorschach.com, RORSHAK.com. I've got a little Instagram in there, so follow me if you will, and I'll try to keep you up on cool adventures. And I'll try to make sure that the pictures are worth you stopping by and flipping through. And if they're not, then I've failed you, and that's too bad for all of us, really.
Yeah, exactly. Once again, I'm Dave Altizer. This is Rory White. See you next time.